Well, here we are, episode 5 of Blessed Are the Geek. In this episode, we're going to sit down with a good friend of mine, Chris, where we talk about Spongebob SquarePants, everybody's favorite absorbent yellow underwater undersea sponge from Bikini Bottom. And you probably hear my son here in the background jumping and running around and stuff because I'm trying to work from home today. But in any case, this is a great conversation. I will warn you ahead of time that he and I can get very passionate very quickly about SpongeBob. And when we quote things, as we do a lot in this episode, things get to be really loud really quickly. So I just want to give you a warning that there may be some volume spikes here and there as we get really excited about SpongeBob. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. Don't forget to go check out our Twitter page, and we have a Facebook group called Blessed Are the Geek. Let us know what you think. Are there any topics you want to see us cover in the future? Do you want to come on and talk about something? What is your favorite hobby, fandom, job, anything like that? Whatever you want to talk about, we'd love to have you on. But you can get in contact with us through our Twitter or our Facebook page. You can also email us any questions you have or any topic suggestions at blessedgeekcast@gmail.com. So send your inquiries and stuff there. And without further ado, let's get absorbent and yellow and spongy. Are you ready, kids? Hey there, everyone. So this is our 5th episode, is what I have written down here for Blessed Are the Geek podcast. And we are sitting here with Chris, or I got your last name already.
Russell.
Yeah. Which is like Timmons as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, somewhere in there, Timmons as well. But Chris Russell is what we're going with. And so far we have talked about Lego, we've talked about Zelda Breath of the Wild, we've talked about online marketing and arcade machines. Those are our 4 we've tackled so far. But today we're talking about
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Come on, guys, SpongeBob SquarePants.
Who doesn't love SpongeBob SquarePants?
I honestly thought you were going into the theme there for a second. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Absorbent and yellow, and porous as sea.
Right.
Whose nautical nonsense is something you wish. Yeah. So drop on the deck and flop like a fish.
Ready?
All right.
If people are like, hey, this doesn't sound like all the other podcasts, we were supposed to do this earlier in the evening, but I got caught up doing a lot of crap. And we were about to get kicked out of the bar we were going to do this in, so we're actually sitting on Cherry Street in downtown Macon, so you're probably going to hear sirens going off right now, and we'll probably try and take pauses and fix those as we're sitting here recording. So sorry in advance for anybody's personal conversation you hear behind us or anything, but this is the best we can do on a short notice. So anyway, SpongeBob. So I was talking to you a couple weeks ago about SpongeBob, and you were really excited about it, and that's cool because SpongeBob is such a great written show. It's so funny until a certain point, and we were in agreement on this. And where is that point?
Season 3 is really the last season that Steven Hillenburg, the original writer and creator of SpongeBob, did. After that, in 2003, he did the movie, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Right.
That's the
no
title.
Subtitle, yeah.
Exactly. And after that, he envisioned, and he said this in interviews, that was going to be the end of the show. And then he left as the creator, director, and executive producer.
Oh, wow.
So then after that, Nickelodeon saw such, a money boon of it that they just took the second guy in charge, put him in charge, and in 2004, they started it again. Now, Season 4 isn't necessarily a steep drop-off from that, the way I see it. A lot of the same writers are still there. Season 4 is pretty good, but really, the first 3 seasons, and my friends and I colloquially call it the Hillenburg 60, because there's 60 episodes in the first 3 seasons, is really the heart, the meat of the show, where you really get to see SpongeBob.
And these are episodes like the No More Karate episode and let's see, the jellyfish. Is the jellyfish factory on that one?
The one where he makes the jellyfish jellies, the jellyfish patties.
Yeah.
The Bubble Bowl is my favorite episode.
Oh, that's Squilliam Fancy, son.
Yes. So the Bubble Bowl. Is because,
guys, if you haven't watched SpongeBob, I think we're probably going to be quoting like every episode.
Probably, absolutely. And so, basically, a lot of me and my friends watched this show as a kid, and we really, really loved it. And so in college, we kind of got around to it again. We started quoting it and loving it. And really, the internet recently, within the last year or two, has been pulling SpongeBob memes out of everywhere.
Everywhere. Like I don't even know where that duck-looking one came from.
That might have actually come after the Hillenburg 60, but I'd wager to say 95% of every SpongeBob memes comes from the Hillenburg 60. So we enjoyed it all as a kid, and it was a funny cartoon show, and we really loved it. We really enjoyed it. And then I went back to it as an adult during college and some boring, Saturday afternoons or whatever, and I still thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's amazing.
One thing I saw again and again and again from interviews and really looking at the character was just the resiliency of SpongeBob SquarePants in the face of all sorts of adversity. Constantly has just a really, really positive attitude and just a love of what he's doing, even though he's a fry cook. And even though he never catches a break, he never can really do anything right. His boss is like a jerk. His coworker doesn't really like him too much.
I don't know that I would agree with that entirely.
Okay.
I would say that sometimes he can't catch a break.
Yeah.
But I would say that, like, sometimes it's everyone else around him that can't catch a break.
Yeah.
I'm specifically thinking of, it was like one of the first few episodes, I'm actually kind of looking for it right now. It was the one where they did the Krusty Krab pizza.
Krusty
Krab pizza. The Krusty Krab.
Well, this one's on the house.
Yeah.
How do you expect me to eat this pizza without my drink? My Diet Dr. Kelp? But sir, you didn't order any drink.
It's not a boulder.
It's a rock.
It's a rock.
A big, beautiful rock. Though the pioneers used to ride these babies for miles.
It's actually not a bad SpongeBob impression. So yeah, I was thinking about that episode, and now I lost all track of what I was trying to say because we
were talking about catching a break.
So SpongeBob is the one catching a break in that episode to an extent because they are marooned and abandoned, and they're in the middle of who knows where. Because like the topography and the geography of like Bikini Bottom changes so much all the time.
It adapts to the episode and the story of what they're telling
which I think is hilarious. But in that episode, they are lost, and it's SpongeBob who gets on the rock and happens to just drive this rock. And by the way, may I point out, he drives it perfectly. A boat? Can't drive it. Still can't drive it.
So one of the ongoing themes of SpongeBob is that he can never get his boating license because he can't learn to drive a boat, which in SpongeBob is the exact same thing as a car.
Right.
So in the episode, Squidward assumes he can drive a car, which SpongeBob can't, guesses, throws it into reverse, and he drives 50 miles backwards or something into the middle of nowhere, and then left stranded, trying to deliver a pizza. So then in the trying to deliver a pizza, it's Squidward and SpongeBob who are co-workers.
No, that was SpongeBob driving.
Yeah, he backed it up.
Sorry. I thought you said Squidward's driving.
Squidward assumed SpongeBob could drive. They backed it up into the middle of nowhere.
Backing up.
So then, in trying to deliver this pizza, they're left and stranded on a road. Squidward says, well, now we're stuck. Kicks the boat, and the boat, of course, then has all the fuel in the world.
Shifts into gear and just
drives away. So then now they're walking on a road, trying to find out where this guy's house could be, trying to deliver a pizza in time while it's still warm.
They start getting hungry and like hallucinating almost.
Let's just look at the pizza.
Let's just make sure. Oh, look, yep, it's still okay.
No, we can't. It's for the customer. And then no kidding, a tornado comes out of the middle of nowhere and just swoops them into the middle of like the desert / Bikini Bottom, sand everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're left to their own devices to find out how to deliver this pizza. And instead of giving up, instead of giving in or seceding or eating the pizza themselves, SpongeBob ventures on to deliver it to this man's house. They find a rock, they hop aboard, and the rock somehow drives them, as SpongeBob entails. It's not a boulder, it's a rock! To the man's house directly within 2 seconds. Now, and then after delivering the pizza to the man's house, this long, vaunted,
arduous,
difficult journey, tornadoes, lack of fuel,
starvation.
They The man promptly responds with, "Oh, thanks for my pizza. Where's my drink?" Your drink? My
He's like flipping through his notebook where he was taking the order. He's like, I don't see where you ordered the.
But sir, you didn't order any drink. And then the customer says, "I'm not accepting this. I'm not paying you guys." Squidward, in one of the very rare.
He starts so SpongeBob goes back to the boat. He is like tail between his legs. He is he's starting to cry a little bit.
His mouth is actually on the lower portion of his abdomen because he's so sad, just about to cry. Squidward, who's the coworker who largely resents SpongeBob
all the time because he's so happy and enjoys his own life.
Kind of stands up for him in the Krusty Krab way, marches to the customer's door and says, "What? I'm not going to take this without my drink." And the Squidward says, "Well, this one's on the house," and then slams the pizza in the guy's face, closes the door, and SpongeBob says, "Did he take it?" "Yep, ate the whole thing in one bite." And this is actually a pretty good episode for roughly describing their Squidward and SpongeBob's
relationship.
Relationship, which isn't really a friendship in any sort of classical sense, but you get a feeling that at least Squidward, as much as he resents SpongeBob's happiness and joy for life, even though they're fry cooks, they at least respect SpongeBob for trying really, really hard in his job.
Yeah.
And it's one of those pat you on the back episodes where you really get to see, Squidward's not such a bad guy after all.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
He can be a pretty good guy when he wants to be.
Absolutely.
And that's the funny thing is, like, you see a huge duality in both of their personalities. SpongeBob is, like, the cracked out, like, he's, like, always happy about there is no downside to anything. There's always a silver lining.
Yeah.
SpongeBob is always happy. Keep in mind, he works at the same place Squidward does, lives on the same street, lives right next door to him. They have a lot in common. Squidward hates his life. He hates everything around him.
Yeah.
He would rather be living in a much fancier place, around a lot fancier people, in an upper class. And one episode, he gets his wish. He lives in a whole community full of other squids.
Squidville.
And so let's you want to talk about that one, because that's part of the 60.
Yeah. So this is also part of the Hillenburg 60, and I don't have all the episodes memorized, but basically, Squidward finally has enough of SpongeBob and Patrick Star, who's the other one of SpongeBob's friends that lives on the other side of Squidward. Moves to a community full of nothing but other octopi like him. Now, mind you, Stephen Hillenburg has gone on record and stated Squidward is actually an octopus. Fun fact for you, I've got a million more if we had 8 more hours to interview. Anyways.
That's weird, because he only has 6 tentacles. He doesn't even have 8.
His head is also round and oblong and not pointed like a squid.
Octopodes have 8 limbs.
The creator of the show has gone on record and stated he's an octopus.
Look.
But Octoword doesn't really work. You can Google it. It's Hillenburg octopus. He said it in the documentary. I just watched it a month ago. Anyways, there's no kidding, a documentary produced by VH1 on SpongeBob SquarePants. Anywho, so
that's like the creator of the GIF insists that it's called a GIF, when in reality everybody says no, you're a liar and you're dumb. It's called a GIF.
So there's also another episode where you see the perfect resemblance of a squid as well, with a pointed head and a pointed body. That is the representation of a squid. It's a female. She's in a green dress. She walks in to get a kelp shake from the Krusty Krab. I forget which episode that is.
Wow, I don't remember that one.
Anyways, we can finish debating this. Anyways, so Squidward exists in a Tiki Island head and moves eventually away from SpongeBob SquarePants and Patrick Star into a community of nothing but squids. And his passions are, dancing, and his passions are, eating canned bread. And also
playing the clarinet.
Playing the clarinet, and he finds a clarinet trio. He makes it a quartet, and he joins a dance studio. And after about 10 or so days of this in a row, he finds no meaning in life, and
he's just as happy as he was before he moved there.
His face over the course of days literally turns from a smile to a frown, and he's upset. So then, what does he do? He starts, doing the silly, pedantic, childish things that SpongeBob would do. Instead of using a reef blower, which is the SpongeBob SquarePants equivalent of a leaf blower, he then uses it to run over to someone and blow leaves in their face, and he puts it on someone's bicycle, and it blows up the bicycle and all this stuff.
I think he puts it in a shirt too at one point.
Yeah, and then it lifts
kind of like we've all done over the air conditioner on the side of our house at one point or another.
Yeah, exactly. And then he the entire town that he's in, Squidville, chases him into a corner and he can't stand it anymore. He wants to have fun. He doesn't want to have this boring life of what he envisions life to be, and he uses the reef blower to blast himself off into oblivion.
Right. Out of the community.
Out of the community entirely. I'm completely a pariah by the Squidville community. So then, unbeknownst to him, SpongeBob and Patrick miss him so much, they go into Squidville to find him, and then see a squid figure in the distance launching themselves off into the sky
using a reef blower.
By way of reef blower, and they say, well, I know for one thing's for sure, that's certainly not him. And so one of the things that really, occurs again is, while we have so many episodes of Squidward, not really enjoying the company of Patrick Star and SpongeBob, once again he kind of shows that he fits in, even though it initially seems he doesn't. But one of the things that the SpongeBob SquarePants documentary really focuses on is how much he really has an enthusiasm for life. And so that's something that, looking back on it, can actually be appreciated of is that there's a small amount of philosophy inside of SpongeBob that as a child you get, all the laughs and all the jokes and all the anchors hitting people offside of head. And,
right, there's a lot of slapstick in it, and a lot of, there isn't fart jokes, but there's the fart style humor almost.
Yeah, exactly. Childish humor that, as an adult you can kind of look back on innuendos and stuff and really realize there's actually a little bit more going on underneath the surface of the show that you can still appreciate. And anyways, after the Hillenburg 60, they completely are on fart slapstick humor, and
right,
it kind of degrades itself.
So let's look at the origins of the show and like what it's based on, because was this ever confirmed when I'm thinking of?
Oh, the 7 deadly sins, or are you talking about something else?
No, I was talking
There's a lot of theories.
Okay. Let's dive into that.
Let's go with the one that you thought of first.
Okay.
Because well, I can talk about the 7 deadly sins in a more broad sense.
I think I may know what you're talking about. I'm not sure. Anyway.
All right, let's go.
So the first one is that Bikini Bottom is actually in Bikini Atoll, which is a real place in the Pacific Ocean where the U.S. was testing the H-bomb or the atom bomb or something like that.
I think the first... We can look this up, but I'm pretty sure the first hydrogen bomb was actually tested there.
Right.
And it actually left a crater, no kidding, where the Bikini Atoll was.
Right, and there was a lot of radiation that put off from that, so the theory is that all the radiation from those tests, multiple, I believe, not just one, I'm pretty sure it was multiple H-bombs.
Before we knew that those things were bad.
Right, who knew? But all the radiation from those bombs kind of warped and transformed and disfigured the aquatic community near it, and that's where we get Bikini Bottom, and that's why you have anthropomorphic sponges and a restaurant undersea somehow.
And you have talking fish, which obviously never happens in real life. So
no, never.
Yeah.
I don't have one hanging on my wall that sings to me or anything.
Bubble baths. Hey, we're under his tongue the whole time. So that has been a fan theory for a few number of years, and no kidding, Hillenburg has been asked about that, and I googled this fairly extensively. And as fun as it is to really think about that as being something that drove Hillenburg to write the series, unfortunately, there's really no one at the show has at least admitted that that's a reason.
So it just
and
that's
fits kind of
in really well.
Yeah, exactly.
They parallel each other really well.
Bikini Bottom is really just something funny, hey, like something bottom. Oh, hey, Bikini Bottom.
Right,
hey, let's do it that way. Another theory, which the voice of Patrick Star confirmed. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I saw it in the SpongeBob SquarePants documentary on VH1. Was that some of the characters were loosely based off of some of the 7 deadly sins, and so some of the times you want to see, hey, what is the impetus for this character?
Is it Bill Fagerback?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the things that really is an impetus for some of the characters, and when you're coming up with characters, hey, what is this guy's mojo? What's his deal? What's his drive? For Mr. Krabs, he's nothing about money. He wants only money. Right. That's Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob's boss is Mr. Krabs. And so that's one of the deadly sins is greed. Patrick Star, SpongeBob's friends, is nothing but lazy. He literally lives under a rock, doesn't have a job, lives on sand furniture. And so sloth is one of his 7 deadly sins.
Right.
And then to a certain extent, SpongeBob's pet, Gary the Snail, the joke behind him is he's always eating SpongeBob's furniture, eats an excessive amount of food a day, snail po, which is the snail food that he eats. That's 10 times his body weight. He'll eat, as much as that in a day. Gluttony could be Gary the Snail's impetus, the 7 deadly sins he's based off of. Once you really go past those deadly sins, though, there's not a lot that can really be found that's tactile. So maybe Patrick Star, definitely Mr. Krabs, and possibly Gary the Snail are based on the sins. Once you go past that, you're
so
really
we can't
drawn.
even fill on all 7.
Yeah, it's you can draw at straws and kind of maybe find them. SpongeBob's actually one of the hardest to really pin down to a deadly sin, though. Envy is possibly one of them, but really he doesn't really have a lot of envy for things.
No.
There's some fan theories out there, but at the end of the day, once you go past those first 3, you're really drawing at straws.
Sure, I gotcha. And were there any other theories that you knew about as far as SpongeBob goes?
So I can go into the actual origins of the show and what Hillenburg has commented on.
Absolutely.
So
let's dive on in. Yeah.
So Hillenburg is no kidding a marine biologist.
Okay.
From I think the University of Santa Clara, California, if I have that memorized correctly. And so he was really into marine biology and plants and animals underneath the ocean, fish and stuff like that. And he also liked drawing cartoons. And so, through his own passion and his own skill set, he paired both of those things together and became a cartoon artist. And he's the self-made man kind of thing. And
sure.
And Hillenburg is kind
he
of...
was the first to do Doodle Bob.
Yes, really. And in the early infantile stages of the show, it was actually going to be called SpongeBoy Ahoy. And the original, so SpongeBoy Ahoy actually sounds like a pretty good show, and
not bad.
Arguably a little bit better than SpongeBob SquarePants. But the term SpongeBoy was already trademarked, and he had to switch from SpongeBoy Ahoy to SpongeBob SquarePants. And that worked. It took off. They had, they sent it up to Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon absolutely loved the pilot. They aired it on the Kids' Choice Awards, I believe in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. I had that year memorized. And that episode was Reef Blower, Help Wanted, which is where he gets his first job at the Krusty Krab, and then Tea at the Tree Dome.
And Help Wanted, there was that song at the very end. Living in the sunlight, having a wonderful time. Yeah, that was a popular song. I forget the name of the guy who does that, but it was a guy who's known for singing really high stuff.
I don't even have the words memorized, but if you ever want to watch SpongeBob, the first episode is actually 3 little short episodes in about 22 minutes. If you don't love SpongeBob off of that first episode of just Help Wanted and Tea at the Tree Dome, it's not for you. But probably you'll fall in love with it. It's absolutely wonderful.
Was Tea at the Tree Dome the one where he doesn't go in with his water helmet?
Yes.
That was the first episode?
Pinky! Pinky! Pinky up!
I need it!
So, one of the...
I send that gift to my wife once a week. Nintendo will make an announcement about something. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna launch this new Metroid game," and I'm just I just send her the close up of his super gnarled face with the sweat coming down, and I'm like, I need it.
And obviously, this is a podcast, and it's difficult to explain facial expressions, but one of the reasons SpongeBob memes have become so popular is because of how articulate the facial expressions of the characters in the show are. And just to go a little bit back into that episode. SpongeBob is obviously a sponge. He exists underwater. And one of the characters in the show is a squirrel who exists underwater. And she has, no kidding, an upside-down dome at the bottom of the sea with an oak tree in it. And inside of that, she exists in air. And so she meets SpongeBob by...
That just raises more questions.
Oh, absolutely.
How is she getting fresh air? And there's no tubes going up to the surface. So
well, I mean, how many...
She has the giant tree, so I guess maybe that's sort of how she's
the tree does produce air, so there is a coexisting environment of the tree producing oxygen and her producing carbon dioxide. So maybe theoretically possible. But yeah, I mean, there's fires all the time underwater in SpongeBob SquarePants. So the physics of the show never really makes any sense.
The fires, they somehow create fire all the time underwater.
Wait a minute, if we're underwater, then how can there be a... And then Patrick kicks the fire underwater, and then it goes out. So anyways, in this first episode, Tea at the Tree Dome, Sandy invites SpongeBob over to her house at the Tree Dome and says, "Oh, hey, I'm in an air dome." And so SpongeBob, cute new girl, wants to meet her, goes to his friend Patrick, and says, "Hey, Patrick, I'm going to my friend Sandy's house, and she says that there's air there." And he goes, "Oh, you mean she puts on airs? That's just fancy talk. If you want to just talk fancy, raise your pinky, like this." So SpongeBob, unknowingly living in water his entire life, goes into this tree dome. There's only air. There's no water. He needs water to survive. And he's drying out, like literally while talking to Sandy. And he's having a really big struggle simply existing. Calls Patrick back up. Patrick runs to the tree dome. Pinky! Pinky!
Show him your pinky!
Pinky! So SpongeBob, to save himself from being dried out, he puts on airs by raising his pinky. Then becomes completely dried out.
Right.
So Patrick goes in there to save his buddy. We gotta get you out of here. There's no water in here. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Then Sandy comes back out of the house after getting tea for the both of them and sees both of them, not the cartoon characters, the starfish and the sponge.
Like a real life sponge and starfish.
Yeah, exactly. The show cuts to like a physical sponge and then a physical starfish, like
a
real
dish
life.
Sponge.
Yeah, exactly. Just laid out on an artificial turf lawn. She goes, ah! And the show will bounce back and forth between, painted on depictions of the cartoon characters, real life depictions, and then the cartoons, and it does it so seamlessly and so flawlessly. It's nearly endless entertainment.
I mean, there was the one
fantastic.
where they had a contest with each other. And so the first contest was for Sandy. Let's see, because it was a lot of like...
Water creatures are best.
It's right. Are water creatures better than land creatures? And so
Landy.
they challenged Sandy to go without her air helmet. And she got rid of it, and she couldn't even like fill it back up with air. And she tried holding her breath underwater, and then ended up getting a pickle jar and slamming her head in a pickle jar, and that helped and worked for some reason. And
There's
then
air apparently in a pickle jar.
Apparently,
she puts it on upside down,
and then shortly
air to
after,
breathe.
it cuts back because like they wanted the sea creatures to go on land, see how long they could last, and then
prove that sea creatures were best.
Right. And so then they cut back to those real, like an actual dish sponge, like hopping out of the water onto like a tiny little beach sand that looked like a school art project. And there's like this fake seagull thing that comes down and
it's like a
them.
puppet that like looks like a seagull but isn't, and it's the most just gaudy, stupid thing ever. But it's funny.
Speaking of puppets, after the Hillenburg
60, yeah.
Yeah, after the Hillenburg 60, they really started to explore Patchy the pirate a little bit, who is the one that like narrates the show.
Yeah.
And they experimented with him more outside of the show rather than in the episodes.
Yeah.
Because he was like, they had a guy come onto the Nickelodeon set dressed as Patchy the pirate, who had this little puppet bird that would wisecrack with him and everything. But he would like intro the cartoons and like make jokes beforehand and between episodes and stuff. And I feel like that was really like the beginning of the end for SpongeBob, because it was like, okay, this guy's all right. He's kind of funny. I get what they're doing, and then like it just wasn't funny.
Yeah,
ever.
Patchy was a really minor kind of intro character of the SpongeBob universe, and he's really the one singing the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song, which is pretty universal.
Right.
So universal, in fact, our previous president, Barack Obama, was asked not what his favorite cartoon character was, but what his favorite television character was. And President Barack Obama, at the time president, said his favorite TV show character was SpongeBob SquarePants.
That's awesome.
So there's that much notoriety to where the most powerful man in the world identifies that SpongeBob SquarePants is his favorite television character.
So what is your favorite thing about SpongeBob? Like, when you think of SpongeBob, like, is it the nostalgia of, like, watching it growing up? Is it the jokes? Is it the writing? Is it the animation? Is it the voices? Like, what is your favorite? What is the thing that really, like, ignites in you when you watch SpongeBob, when somebody talks about it?
Really, I mean, it's kind of changed over the years, actually. So really, it was just the nostalgia. I mean, at first, it was just how much I laughed as a kid. Nostalgia, obviously. And then as an adult, watching it and not being able to stop laughing the entire way through, where Hillenburg like almost perfectly times the jokes to where the second that you're done laughing at something, he pokes you with something else that's even funnier than the thing before it, while still casting together a loose plot that kind of relatively makes sense.
Like, I thought of something funnier than 24.
25!
So good.
And then really looking back at it and kind of just seeing a really great character in SpongeBob SquarePants who can perk up the feelings of those around him. You know, oh, why are you crying, Plankton? I've got these 2 ice cream cones, but I only need 1. I can eat one of these ice cream cones for you.
You would do that for me?
And he eats one of the. Anyways,
Plankton, by the way, is one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah, and we really have. God, we've barely pierced the surface of this. Plankton is fantastic as well. There's
He's
a lot
the
of
only
really
villain, really. If you want to call him
yeah. I
a
mean,
villain.
yeah, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie kind of has Poseidon can kind of be a villain sometimes, but yeah, not really. Plankton's really the one guy who
always
really
trying to get
is
the
the
Krabby
thorn
Patty
in the
secret
side.
formula.
Yes, exactly. Is the thorn in the side of the main characters in nearly every episode. To a certain extent, maybe Man Ray or the villains of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot that was the whole side thing. Was
Yeah, God.
The two basically the Aquaman,
That dirty bubble.
the Aquaman and Robin basically duo
Yeah, exactly.
are now in their 60s in a retirement home, and every once in a while come out and still try and fight crime or whatever, and
With the conch shell.
the magic. Oh, that's a different thing. The magic.
That is just a magic conch.
It's a totally different episode.
And then they have a conch that calls them.
Oh my god.
There's
The
so much to
Magic
go
Conch
into.
episode is amazing. Where there's
Oh, magic conch! What do we do? Nothing.
Nothing.
And they sit there and literally do nothing. And
Yeah.
they obey the magic conch, which is this plastic toy where you pull the cord.
it's a
and
magic 8-ball conch shell.
Yeah,
that, like,
exactly. It just
tells
tells-
you what to do, and they're lost, like lost in these woods. And Squidward's
An underwater
freaking out.
jungle.
Yeah, Squidward's freaking out. He doesn't know how to get home. He's got to get saved, but they just keep obeying the conch shell. And again, that goes back to things work out for SpongeBob.
Yeah.
They don't work out for people around him.
His intent is near in everything that he does is to bring joy to those around him, and that constant attitude of goodness in the face of all peril, in the face of all arduous tasks that he has to do, is something that as an adult I've no kidding looked at as a children's cartoon show and seen actually inspiration in. So there's actually a fair number of memes today where you'll have Squidward sitting at the door with his face being all amuck and be like, the old employee versus the new employee, and the new employee is this young, happy, can-do attitude for the
Right.
first 3 months, and then you'll learn to hate this job like
That's right.
everyone else here.
That's right.
But SpongeBob kind of never loses that glimmer
Sense
to
of
himself.
wonder. Really.
Yeah, exactly. This appreciation for being a fry cook. I mean,
Right.
he's a fast food joint manager, and he does it to the best of his abilities.
Yeah.
And I might be romanticizing the show a little bit too much, but
I don't think so.
yeah, I sincerely appreciate that is the impetus of the main characters is. And there might be a few episodes where he really gets bogged down, but really,
I don't think there are too many other TV shows where the main character is so bubbling over with joyousness and hope.
Yeah, because
I mean, I'm just thinking of like the Rugrats. Tommy wasn't that much. Doug wasn't that much.
Doug was kind of just an average guy. He could get bogged down too pretty easily.
Oh, he was bogged down really easily. He was
Yeah.
that loner teenager who was like, what was he, 12? He was 12 in the show. And so he was easily like,
Yeah,
something happened, like,
we can get into a lot of Nicktoons
yeah,
here.
that's
How
Doug.
many
Different
hours
show.
do we have?
Right, 3/4 of one.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, we can give. I'm happy to keep it going.
Yeah.
But then, and he's got a great friend too on Patrick Starr who, isn't too bright, but the impetus of Patrick Starr is never focused solely on his how dumb he is, but on just the fact that he'll try something and then it won't work out. One of the really great, a really great SpongeBob and Patrick episode is. Are we about to think of the same one here?
I really hope we are, because it's like one of the best SpongeBob
We stole a
ever.
balloon? Or are you thinking of something else?
No,
Okay.
I was thinking of the Baby Clam episode.
Oh, wow. This one's fantastic, too. All right, let's go to the Baby Clam first. So the Baby Clam episode, they find a little scallop. Oh, no,
It's a scallop, yeah.
it's a baby scallop. And
Which
so,
is actually a clam. Like,
is a baby scallop a clam?
I don't know. I think they're different.
You can Google
It's
that at
very
home.
bivalve-y, so
Yeah.
I'm going to guess it's a clam.
So they're roughly similar. Anyways,
It looks
it's
like a shelter, like in the Pokemon world.
cloister, maybe?
Yeah, no, shelter, because it's tiny, it's purple. Anyway.
So they find a baby scallop, and SpongeBob, and Patrick are both guys, even though Hillenburg has actually stated that SpongeBob is asexual. They never really get into
I can see that.
They never really get into romance with SpongeBob, and I think he does that very intentionally. He never wanted to be focused on rather more adult themes, where when you get into teenage years, you start focusing on boys and girls. And and the birds and the bees. He only solely focuses on just the character of who SpongeBob is and how
that's so funny
that gets into adventures.
That you mentioned that, because I never noticed that until you brought it up. Is that like there are so many shows where you have to have that love interest for some god awful reason. Every movie or TV show has to have a love interest, and
the guy has to have
there.
The guy has to have the girl that he's trying to get and
right.
then never gets for some reason or
it's
whatever.
not that way for SpongeBob. For SpongeBob, like everybody's just a friend. He's just a friend to everybody.
Yeah. They never really even touch at relationships.
Right.
All.
Yeah. In fact, nobody really has a relationship ever.
So
really.
So I'll touch on the Mr. Krabs thing, and then we'll go into the Baby Scalp episode.
Okay.
So everyone in the show, very intentionally, when you see their parents, it's the same sex as they are, same species as they are. So you see SpongeBob's parents; they're both adult, kind of
and
older.
This is why
sponge.
I staggered for a second.
These are both adult, older sponges. Patrick's parents are both adult, older starfish. You see Plankton's family, and they're all plankton. And then Mr. Krabs, his daughter, is a whale.
Yeah.
And the Hillenburg 60, at least, it's never even mentioned at, or the two movies that Hillenburg has directed, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and then
like the parentage is never discussed or talked about.
And
or
so
anything.
there's an enormous amount of fan theories as to what exactly happened to his daughter Pearl, but then nothing is ever really stated. And I think Hillenburg has done it very, very intentional, just like, hey, I'm gonna throw this like wild card out there to see how you guys deal with it. And it's odd, but it works. It totally works. Mr. Krabs' daughter is a whale, like period. Done.
Right.
No question about it.
She's giant. She'll jump up and down and shake the whole restaurant.
Just look at her. She's a whale. All right, so let's dip back into the Baby Scout. So this is the SpongeBob Patrick friendship that really gets at a heart here. So they find a baby scalp, and it needs nurturing. It needs to be. It needs parents, and so they decide, oh, well, Patrick, since you never wear a shirt, just call me daddy. I guess that makes me mom. And so, at the very beginning, Patrick changes out the baby scalp's diaper once, and then SpongeBob is stuck being the mother, so he has to cook, he has to clean, he has to vacuum, he has to change the diaper, and he does
the baby.
He does this all with 6 different arms every evening.
He grows more appendages.
One of the things about SpongeBob is he can grow different arms to do different tasks.
If he wants to. It's not something that happens in every episode.
It's when he's really animated, and I mean that in the human sense of animated, like when his emotions are really running rampant. Animated. Obviously, he's always technically animated.
Right.
And then towards the end of the episode, we see Patrick every day going to work, is what he says. And every day he leaves in a suit and tie and a top hat and a briefcase, and he walks down the road. And Patrick and SpongeBob finally says, "Well, where's he going to work every day?"
Well, before all this, every time Patrick comes home for the evening.
Oh yeah, thank you.
SpongeBob is going, okay, well, is it your turn to take care of the baby? And he's like, I'm really tired, so tomorrow. And so tomorrow comes.
Oh yeah. So then this is the SpongeBob cue cards.
Sure. Oh, the cue cards! Oh my God, the cue cards!
We've barely tapped the
my family and I so I know some families are in it. Some families do this, and some families don't. Like my wife's family is not big quoters. They don't quote a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's all me and my family do is we quote stuff like literally. Like we don't have a pure thought amongst ourselves that is our own. Sometimes we just like quote constantly, just like from movies to TV shows, and just like intertwined quotes from different stuff all the time. And so. If me and my family are ever like waiting somewhere, anywhere, if it takes
hours later.
every time, if it takes us a long time, it's 2 hours later.
So there's these cue cards in SpongeBob it's one of those things where when you dip out of the show and then back into it, it makes it almost twice as funny. Where if you simply had the animated show the entire time, but Hillenburg takes you out of the world and back into it to show you how ridiculous it really is. Mm-hmm. Which just doubles and even triples the comedic value. So, anyways, tomorrow never happens, and so much later, we ran out of cue cards and had to use these. And he just says,
"We hired a new narrator.
He
wasn't French; he was British."
And then finally,
because he's so tired from coming home from work and all the monotony of all his job and everything. So finally,
SpongeBob snaps, follows Patrick to. Calls out Patrick for being at work all day into the evening. He says, and Patrick says, "So this is the thanks I get for working overtime." And Patrick goes, "Overtime?" And he opens Patrick's briefcase up, and it's nothing but ice cream, and then donuts. And so Patrick at work all day has been doing nothing but watching television, eating donuts and ice cream.
In fact, he hasn't even been going that far.
So Patrick's actually been going back to his home, which is 2 doors down under a rock. He's, that's it, I'm going back to work. SpongeBob then follows him back to work, leaving the baby Scallop home alone.
Right.
And they go have an argument over, and they yell at each other over Patrick's rock, and they open up the rock, and there's a television, and there's ice cream, and so finally they forget, through their own bickering, that the Scallop is on the second floor window of the home. Baby Scallop, all by himself. Oh my God, our baby Scallop! And they look, and the Scallop jumps from the window, and they think he's going to die. And finally, the Scallop proves itself and starts flying, because underwater Scallops fly.
Somehow they're like birds underwater.
Yeah, Scallops, I guess, are baby birds in the SpongeBob universe.
Right.
And they go, oh! And so then the Scallop flies over to SpongeBob, kisses him on the cheek, and says, hey, basically, thank you for raising me. He goes,
right.
What about me for daddy? And the Scallop flies over, picks up a coconut, drops it on Patrick's head, and goes, oh! And then kisses Patrick as well.
How did he grab the
dad.
coconut? Maybe he grabbed it by the husk. That's never mind.
Was it take 2 Scallops to fly a coconut over here from the other SpongeBob universe?
Maybe they tied it betwixt them.
What is the average flying speed of a swallow?
I don't know that.
African or European?
So then the very last line of the whole episode is Patrick turns to SpongeBob and he goes, Let's have another.
Which
is so true of parenting.
Which is endearing of the SpongeBob Patrick friendship relationship too. That's really the deepest they ever get into the birds and the bees with anyone ever, is them pretending to be parents to raise a fake little baby bird together.
Right.
But there's it's 100% asexual, 100% focused on the comedic value of the relationship and not really the romantic aspects of the show at all. Which I think Hillenburg really gets at the heart of comedy there, and just he can show you such funny things without ever really dipping into the more serious matters of romance, which is part why he was so. I think he's really fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think and that is like the golden age of Nickelodeon, right? So you had
the late '90s, I'd say.
Yes, you had SpongeBob, you had Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, I mean, Doug was great too. I love
no,
Doug.
absolutely. I mean, back when we were kids in the '90s, way early
90s nostalgia.
That's right. You had Rocket Power, and
what a ridiculous show that was! Like 9-year-old kids racing up and down like
that is the
professional
one
skateboarders.
show I ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I love Rocket Power so freaking much.
Did they ever explain what happened to their mom? Was there a movie or something?
Not to my knowledge. Speaking of explaining parents in movies, did you hear what's coming out pretty soon? This is going to blow your mind.
Yeah, I heard.
A Hey Arnold movie.
Yes.
Where they discuss what happens to the parents. And I was listening to this.
They always dipped at it with Hey Arnold, but they never really explained what really happened.
And that's another character that was never like super joyous and happy all the time. Hey Arnold had some shit happen to him.
And he was Hey Arnold, and I guess we're going kind of an overall Nickelodeon theme here
at this point.
Which is fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Hey Arnold was almost kind of like as wise as an adult, and he would help out his friends through all of that wisdom, which he got somewhat through having older. His grandparents raised him, or at least according to the show, he calls the guy who's raising him grandpa.
By the way, quick aside, the waitress that just walked out here goes, I'm ready. Look at that. That is full circle right there.
That's absolutely outstanding.
That's amazing.
I know.
Anyway, sorry. Hey Arnold.
So there's actually some theories that the man who he calls grandpa, who raises him, who looks like he's in his late 60s or early 70s or something, is a very comedic kind of 1920s rickety old man, but with a lively jig to his step. There's theories that that's actually his real biological father, and they had a kid when they were really late in life, and that he doesn't have parents that disappeared, but the man who he calls his grandpa is really his father. So one fan theory, and then obviously this next movie that's coming up, or maybe there's even a season coming out with it.
No, I don't think there is, because what happened with Hey Arnold was like the very last season.
Yeah,
they wanted to do a movie at the end of that last season back in the 90s.
They were only able to condense it to a 1 hour special where some real estate tycoon wanted to destroy the town.
Yeah, and they wanted to really explore Arnold's background at that point, but the script got trashed for some reason, and so for 20 years they have been petitioning and trying to get this movie out, and it's a big deal.
Kind of like a Samurai Jack ending, where he never got back to the past, and now we're dipping in a Cartoon Network too, so maybe 90s nostalgia is the term for this podcast.
They're even bringing back a lot of the old voice actors, which, since we're on the topic of voice actors and Nickelodeon and things that are coming back, Rocko's Modern Life is coming back with all the original voice actors. I swear it's got to have the same writers and animators because that junk. Have you seen the preview?
Guess who was an assistant writer on Rocko's Modern Life?
Was it David Hillenburg?
Stephen Hillenburg was. Yeah, he was a writer on Rocko's Modern Life and took a lot of the comedic antics from that onto SpongeBob, and you can actually see some of the relationship between Heifer and Rocko really drifts into SpongeBob.
Which Heifer was voiced by Tom Kenny, who does
SpongeBob
right.
SpongeBob SquarePants. And so a lot of the same kind of antics from that show, looking at both those shows back to back, you can see that definitely there's a lot of the same creative juice. So one little anecdote for SpongeBob that I have, and this is, I remember watching this YouTube video, and I think I could find it again, but this is kind of anecdotal here, but it's pretty good. There was a show on FX called Nip Tuck, which is like a pretty adult show where they go through and they had surgeries trying to make women look more beautiful and stuff like that, breast augmentations.
It was all about plastic surgery.
Yeah, it was about plastic surgeons, and throughout the show, there's nothing but like sex and all this stuff, very adult themes on FX. And I think, and one of the women on that show said that in the off takes of it, when they weren't shooting, that it was actually very awkward, that it was very sterile, very calm, no talking at all. And she also, one of the people who worked on Nip Tuck, also worked as a voice actress on SpongeBob SquarePants, and said that in the off takes of SpongeBob SquarePants, it was the dirtiest show ever.
Dude, I couldn't even imagine.
And that as much as you could imagine a children's show about a talking sponge with no overt adult material ever, the adults in that show would not stop talking about that's what she said jokes, like
I would
dirty, rotten, disgusting things.
I would go kill a man in absolute cold blood in front of his family right now just to get one audio track of any of the outtakes.
Just
cold blood in front of his family.
What they really talked about behind the scenes of SpongeBob SquarePants.
I bet
howling.
That's the funniest stuff
absolutely
ever.
Yeah.
Because I listen to one of the podcasts I listen to is Talking Tunes with Rob Paulson.
Okay.
And he talks about just some of the stuff that he does and some of the outtakes they have in there, and I can't even imagine. You have Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche and all those other actors from the Animaniacs, and the stuff in between their takes.
God, that show has. Oh my God. You watch that as an adult, it's twice as funny as if you were a kid.
Absolutely, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's all.
Fingerprints? Oh, no thanks.
That's. Yes, but that's the go-to. Everybody knows that one. There's so many better jokes.
Yeah, there are a few better ones. I mean, the memes on the internet right now.
They're doing it live.
Really?
They're doing an Animaniacs live thing right now.
That's damn.
And I'm dying to get tickets to see it.
Okay.
I bet it's amazing because Paul Ruger, who wrote all the songs for Animaniacs, wrote a bunch of new songs for the live show.
Wow.
Oh
Everything's coming full circle for us 90 kids who now have expendable income.
Yeah, that and nobody can make anything new anymore.
Yeah. So anyways, so SpongeBob has, I guess if we want to get back to this, it has been going on still under different writers and stuff like that. But really, the Hillenburg 60, the first 3 seasons, where it's at, outstanding character SpongeBob. Highly encourage a watch. Somehow, if you can find it online or whatever.
I think it's usually on Netflix.
Some of the seasons are. The first 3 seasons I do know are on Amazon Video.
Okay, well,
only a select seasons are on Netflix or Hulu or whatever though.
Yeah.
But I know the first 3 are on Amazon Video.
And if you want, there are tons of shows that are quotable. They're whatever. SpongeBob is so good. I mean,
if you've been on the internet and you've seen a meme recently and it hasn't included SpongeBob SquarePants, you need to explore the internet more.
Yeah.
Because you will find a SpongeBob meme.
I'll have you know. Every meme you've seen is probably
the chicken SpongeBob. Please thaw out the chicken in the fridge. The chicken in the fridge.
Is that what that's from? See, I don't even. That's the only one I haven't seen, and it's gotten really popular lately. But there's the whole sir, I'll have you know that I just did this, and it's like a super not impressive brag at all because that's the
I'll have you
Salty
know
Splatoon episode.
Yeah, I'll have you know I
stubbed my toe this morning,
and I only cried for 3 hours. How tough are you? Yeah. I ate a bowl of nails for breakfast this morning. Oh yeah, that sounds so tough. Without any milk. Oh yeah, right this way, sir, into the Salty Splatoon.
I personally love when he's like, "How tough are you?" and he rips off the guy's mom tattoo and flips it around and puts it back on his skin so it says "Wow." And then SpongeBob leans over and goes, "Wow." All right. Anyway, that is
when I try and join the Cool Kids Club. No, you belong over there. Weenie Hut Juniors. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm at the other restaurant. Super Weenie Hut Juniors.
That is all the time we have on this episode here tonight. But I thank you for joining us and talking about SpongeBob.
Outstanding.
I love this show. Now you're gonna make me go home and watch a bunch of SpongeBob. I tried to watch the Castlevania thing today while I was doing laundry, and
Okay.
Netflix wouldn't have it.
With the Castlevania?
Yeah, there's like a new Castlevania show on Netflix. There's 4 episodes. It's about the video game. It's all
Okay.
animated.
Okay.
People say it's really good. I was trying to finally sit down and watch it today, and Netflix just took a big fart. I mean, like, it just quit working entirely. And so I ended up watching King of Queens for 2 hours.
Want to watch a new show on Netflix? Nah, I'm just going to watch the reruns of The Office for 2 hours.
All right, man. Well, thanks for sitting with us, and hopefully maybe we'll talk with you again in the future.
No problem. Always good to spread the love of SpongeBob SquarePants, the gospel of our time.
That's right. All right, bye.
Yep.